Couch Stateside with your host, Kyle Delaney from CouchFire.co. And in this installment, I would like to break down and predict the upcoming rematch between Ian Uncle Creepy McCall and Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now, here's the thing about this, is that this fight took place on the UFC on FX card between Alves and Campman. This was the debut of the flyweight division, the flyweight tournament, and Demetrious Johnson and Ian McCall squared off. They put on not only a great fight, but fight of the night, non-stop action, wrestling, stand-up, you name it. And what ends up happening is we get to the end of 3 rounds. We have the sudden death round if needed. And what happens is that Demetrious Johnson gets the split decision. What ends up happening, though, we find out, and there was a lot of controversy with this. A lot of people thought Ian McCall won. People thought Demetrious Johnson won. People thought there should have been a 4th round. Here's what ends up happening, though, is the fight was ruled a draw because Commissioner Craig Waller actually read one of the judges' scorecards wrong, and we should have been going to a 4th round.
Controversy has stuck to us like glue lately. And these things happen. Human error happens. The Demetrious Johnson Ian McCall fight was not scored properly. The fight was a draw. And in the case of a draw, the fight was supposed to go to a 4th round. I mean, I don't even know what to say. But you know, the commission has taken responsibility, and I'm actually going to call up Commissioner Craig Waller to answer any questions you guys might have.
Yes, it was a bit of an unfortunate situation. I take full responsibility for the error that was incurred. Unfortunately, I misread one of the scorecards, which was transpired onto the tally sheet. The fight should have been a majority draw. We should have gone into that 4th round, and I sincerely apologise to both fighters, to Dana, and to every single fan of the UFC.
This is very unfortunate. Does not happen a lot, and unfortunately comes during the flyweight tournament where win is actually crucial, and you know, a 4th round was definitely needed to be done. So it was ruled a draw at first. The 4th round was needed in order to have a winner be claimed, or a winner to be crowned to move on to face Benavidez, and that didn't happen. So there's a couple of things also in regards to this, is that obviously it should go into a 4th round. A lot of people were upset that, you know, people thought that Ian McCall won in all 3 rounds. There was no needed 4th round. Some people thought Demetrious Johnson won rounds 1 and 2, but there's also the argument that Ian McCall absolutely dominated the 3rd round. It definitely could have been a 10-8, and Johnson could have taken 1 and 2. That's the way it looks, is that it was a draw. 4th round would have been exciting. The question, really the good question is who would have won that 4th round? Ian McCall had a lot of momentum going into that round. It would have been a good question, is that Demetrious Johnson took a beating in the 3rd. Either way, you know, I'm not here to dispute. There's been a lot of inconsistencies with the judging. This just tops it all off, is that there was a lack of communication and there was a misreading of the cards, and we needed a winner for this, so now we're going to end up seeing a rematch. I think the best way to put this is it was a fight of the night, and I think us as fans, even though McCall and Demetrious Johnson both don't get to advance, they get to fight each other again, and us as fans really get to see an unbelievable fight happen again. So I think that's the best way to put it, really looking and being an optimist about this situation. It stinks for both McCall and Johnson. You know, there's no winner announced, but they get to fight again. So us as fans win, but it is unfortunate for both fighters. But we do get to see a great fight happen whenever it is announced. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to break down both fighters, and I'm going to do my prediction. So first I'll do Ian Uncle Creepy McCall. And here's the thing about McCall, is that he was ranked the #1 flyweight in the world. He beat the #1 flyweight in the world. And really, he was the king of the division, definitely one of the heavy favorites coming into this. Really, I want to say he flew under the radar. I mean, Demetrious Johnson's coming off his title fight with Dominic Cruz. But Ian McCall ranked the #1 flyweight and most definitely fought like one. Now, a couple things about his game really is that Ian McCall's stand-up is serviceable. I think that's the best way to put it. He's a good stand-up fighter, but he's not the better stand-up fighter between these two fighters. He does, I don't want to say he has great hand speed. He does have good knockout power, though, for the division. He's a big guy. He's got a big frame. Ian McCall has 4 knockouts on his resume. He can let the hands go. I don't want to say so much he could put combinations together, but I'd say his better striking is probably out of the clinch. He's a strong wrestler, good grappler. He should not be getting in a striking match in this fight. I'd say at best his stand-up is serviceable. Now, his bread and butter, though, is his ground game. A great wrestler, and really, he's a big guy for the division. Big frame, tall guy, really bulky guy for the division at flyweight, and his wrestling's great. His single leg, his double leg. We saw a suplex in the fight with Demetrious Johnson, and an absolutely great fighter on the ground. Good ground control. The guy's an animal. He's relentless. I mean, we saw this in the third round. You know, he's trying to cheer the crowd on when he's implementing the ground and pound, just beating Johnson like a bully. And that's what he does. He can bully people on the ground. He doesn't give you any room to breathe, and he suffocates you on the ground. That being said, he's also a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He does have 3 submission victories on his resume, so he's more than capable of submitting fighters. So Ian McCall, very well-balanced fighter. I don't want to say so much. I mean, his ground game is obviously better than his stand-up, but he is balanced for this division. He could definitely put forth a very impressive performance against Demetrious Johnson again. Strengths and weaknesses for Ian McCall. His strengths, definitely his strength. His strengths also, definitely his wrestling. He's a very skilled wrestler. His size, his frame, his strength is definitely an advantage for him as well. And also his experience. He's fought at flyweight more times than Demetrious Johnson. He has that experience under his belt. His weaknesses, I'd say, for Ian McCall is his speed. He is not that fast of a stand-up fighter. He's not really explosive, you know, for the division, at least against Demetrious Johnson. And I'd say, you know, that's really all we have. You know, Ian McCall's a sound fighter. He's a tough fighter, got a good chin. And that's why I have for Ian McCall. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now, Demetrious Johnson has come really a long way, improved leaps and bounds. We saw this in his stand-up. You know, he's a skilled wrestler, but we saw his stand-up improve leaps and bounds from his last fight with Dominic Cruz to his fight with Ian McCall. He is really good at popping in and out of the pocket. He uses his speed and his footwork very well. He pops in and out of the pocket. He lands a couple of jabs. The thing that's also most impressive about him is his separation strikes out of the clinch. He had that heavy right hand that he was landing out of the clinch in his fight with McCall. And really, he could get into a technical striking match. And his speed and his movement, his footwork, his way he manages the octagon and moves in the octagon allows him to do so. A lot of credit to his speed and his footwork and his smarts. He's a very smart stand-up fighter. His ground game, he's a more than capable wrestler as well. He's a great wrestler. The problem with it is that he's got great technique, but his size will always hurt him. It doesn't matter if it's flyweight, doesn't matter if it's bantamweight, it does not matter what division it is. His size will always hurt him, is that he cannot bully and manhandle people. His technique may be good, but his size will hurt him. But that does not take away from, like I said, his good technique. He can take people down. He's very explosive with his takedowns, good single, good double. He can take people down in the clinch. His ground control is good, like I said, because of his technique. And he can implement ground and pound. And not to mention that, he's also a very good, I don't want to say submission artist, but he does have 6 submission victories on his resume. He's more than capable of submitting fighters. He could definitely submit Ian McCall in this upcoming fight. So anything's possible, really. So that's what I have for Demetrious Johnson. Some strengths and weaknesses for Demetrious Johnson. Strengths definitely being his speed, his footwork, and definitely, I'd say, you know, game plan would be a big thing. He fought a very smart fight against Ian McCall. Besides getting caught on the ground in the last round, that happens to the best of fighters, but he fights a very smart fight. Weaknesses for Demetrious Johnson, I can only see one. It's his size. You know, he's going to get bullied in whatever division it is. If someone could get him down to the ground, bully him, implement their will, impose their will on them, he'll be in a lot of trouble. Size is definitely a disadvantage for him. He's a small guy. So that's what I have for both fighters. I have 4 categories. I have striking, grappling, experience, and toughness. I'm going to give each fighter the edge. Striking is definitely going to go to Demetrious Johnson. This fight is the better stand-up player. He could get into a technical striking match. He could definitely win this fight. Grappling, I'm going to give to Ian McCall. Even though both fighters are good wrestlers, Ian McCall's size, technique, and his ability to impose his will is definitely going to give him the grappling advantage in this one, along with his very good ground and pound. Experience is going to go to Ian McCall simply because he's had more fights in the flyweight division. Toughness is going to be a wash. Both guys are very hard to finish. Both guys are very tough and like to bring the fight. Let's see. Ian McCall's been finished once by submission, never been knocked out. Demetrious Johnson's only lost by decisions. So that's what I have for both fighters. Where I see each fighter being successful, I see Demetrious Johnson. If he's successful in this fight, he turns it into a striking match, keeps the fight standing, and turns it into a technical striking match, picking it apart, using the cage, moving around, and giving Ian McCall multiple looks. Where I see Ian McCall being successful in this fight is if he turns it into a wrestling match, bullies Demetrious Johnson, imposes his will, implements ground and pound. He very well could TKO Demetrious Johnson on the ground. We might just see a lot of what happened in the third round. That would be the best way for him to fight. Keep this fight off the feet and impose his will on the ground and bully Demetrious Johnson with his superior size. My prediction, where I see this one, how I see this one panning out, I see this one being a spitting image of the first fight. Both guys are very tough. Both guys are very balanced fighters. Both guys will bring the fight to each other. We're going to see stand-up. We're going to see ground game. We're going to see a very good fight. Once again, very well could be fight of the night, whatever card it does end up on. But where I see this one, what I see it coming down to, and I think, Ian McCall, I think he's definitely the favorite going into this fight. He's most definitely the favorite going into this fight. He's the bigger guy. He's very experienced in the division. But I see Demetrious Johnson imposing a good game plan, or implementing a good game plan, using his movement, moving around the cage, using his footwork and his speed, and picking apart Ian McCall and not giving him the chance to take him down to the ground and winning this fight via decision. So I see Demetrious Johnson advancing, facing Joseph Benavidez for the Flyweight Championship, and going on to the next round of the tournament. Ian McCall will land just fine on his feet. They're both good fighters. But I see Demetrious Johnson winning via decision. That's what I have this edition of the Cage Side Couch. This is Kyle Delaney. Signing off. Not here.